Okay, Austin to Dallas, Dallas down to Mexico. What kind of racing are you expecting down there next weekend?
Well, the interesting thing about Mexico City is because the altitude is so high,
Mm-hmm.
there's just less oxygen in the air. And that, because again, these are science projects, physics is involved, that has an impact on car performance. So you look at the track layout and it's long straights. Now, usually on long straights, what you'd want to do is trim back the wings and run a low downforce setting. Well, in Mexico, because the air is so thin, they have to run maximum downforce just to make sure they've got any grip at all through the corners. So, so it's an interesting one. Yeah. So you actually end up with cars in setups very similar to a Monaco setup, but driving around a track which kind of looks a bit like Monza. And the actual downforce level is actually more towards the Monza level than it is to the Monaco level. So it does create a fairly unique set of characteristics, which means you sometimes get surprise results. The other thing that they have to look out for is that the tires tend to overheat a little bit more because there's just less oxygen in the air. So everything is prone to overheating, both the car's internals and the tires. And so it's a different challenge for mainly for the engineers, but for the drivers as well to manage all that. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a cool race, and also there's this brilliant party atmosphere. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the baseball stadium bit at the end of the lap that they go through, and that is an incredible atmosphere. You know, I mean, the Mexican people like make it a fantastic atmosphere anyway, but to then get everyone in that kind of crowd, in essentially a baseball stadium with a racetrack going through it, it's pretty special. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Now, we've touted and applauded the Japanese fans for being so creative. Would you put the Mexican fans up there?
Yeah, I think for passion, definitely. And what was interesting was when F1 came back to Mexico, I think it was 2015, if I'm right in saying that, immediately everyone was so excited to be back there, all in, packed grandstands, and it's just never changed. You know, they just absolutely love it there. It's a real... there's a real long-standing love of motorsport in Mexico. So I think it's really one of the places that everyone loves to go to because of that, because the fans love F1 and then F1 loves Mexico back.
So we're in this interesting situation and scenario that we didn't obviously experience a season ago. Max has won the Drivers' Championship. Red Bull is now the Constructors' Championship winner. I don't want to disrespect or degrade coming in second place in the drivers' standings. Do the drivers care about coming in second? Like, how do they feel? Because obviously we make it a big deal because we want there to be some semblance of importance for the last few races of the season. But how do the drivers feel about it?
Well, there's the famous quote in F1 that second is first to the losers. And I think that is pretty much how most drivers feel about it. I mean, of course, like finishing second is better than finishing third, right? But Kimi Raikkonen famously said, this was several years ago, that he didn't want to finish in the top three because it meant he had to put on a tuxedo and go to Paris to pick up his third place trophy, which to him has no relevance or importance whatsoever. And he just wanted to have his time off after the season to himself rather than going and shaking hands with people and all that kind of stuff. So it is interesting. I think, these drivers, they're so built to win that, that they want to do it. I mean, it would be nice for Checo, I think, to get second place. It would be his best championship finish ever. So, of course, they'll try and do that. But I think for all those drivers, what would mean more to them than the second place is actually just one win at the end of the season, because getting that victory and carrying that momentum into the winter for all the training they have to do, for all the kind of engineering stuff they have to do over the winter as they get closer and closer to putting the new cars on track, having that win behind you, especially if for Checo it happens in Mexico, that would give him so much so much inspiration, pride, enthusiasm to go into the winter with. So I think that's probably what the drivers are looking at more. And then if second place is a result of that, so be it.
So as it stands, Charles Leclerc is in second with 267 points. Perez is right behind at 265. And then George Russell has 218 points. And then in the constructors, you've got Ferrari at 469 points and Mercedes closely behind at 416. Max obviously tied the record for most wins in a season. Michael Schumacher and Sebastian Vettel held that record tied at 13. Do we feel like he sets a new record and gets his 14th win? Can anybody stop him at this point?
I mean, I think we've got 3 races left. I think he could set it at 16. I really do. Like, if I was going to put money on it, that's what I'd say, because again, we were talking about it earlier, the way that car has developed towards him, the way he's driving at the moment, he does look unbeatable in most scenarios. So Singapore was the odd one, wasn't it? That was basically one of the only races he hasn't won since the summer break. But at the moment, he just looks so unbeatable. So I'm pretty sure he's going to set that new record, and that is a huge achievement. And it doesn't really seem to correlate with where the cars are, because we talked earlier about how good the Ferrari was at the start of the year, and I feel like Ferrari should have won so many more races, taken those off Max this year. But he was there and he won them all, and now he just looks unbeatable. So I think he's going to set that record at a new high, and I think that is a big deal. It's always hard to know because there's so many records that can be broken in F1. It's always hard to know which ones to put the emphasis on. But that level of dominance by one single driver in a season is huge, because not only are you beating all the other drivers, you're beating your teammate as well in what is usually very, very similar machinery, if not exactly the same machinery. So that is impressive.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content plus live streaming, make sure to subscribe to ESPN Player.